Hi everybody, Peter Turner here, founder of ConnexionCFO. Today I'm part of our weekly podcast, one with Alex Forsyth-Thompson, who is based in South Africa and has a business called Float. And we're going to ask Alex a few questions today. So this is a story more from an entrepreneur's perspective rather than, say, an advisor's or a non-exec director's perspective. So Alex, tell me a little bit about Float and how it works.
Peter, firstly, thanks for having me on. Always good to chat to a Kiwi. And just hello to all the listeners. So in a nutshell, what Float does, it's a payment option that lets shoppers split their purchases in up to 24 interest-free installments using their existing credit on their Visa MasterCard credit card. So all the shopper needs to have is a Visa or MasterCard credit card with available credit, and then they can pay using Float. And just to mention, the key value for the merchants that offer us is that they can increase sales. Shoppers are more likely to buy, or they'll load their baskets more.
Okay, so just a quick question then. Let's say my credit card balance is £2,000 and I buy something for £1,500 and I pay it off over 2 months. Pay it off over 2 years. Does it use up £1,500 on my £2,000 balance, or does it use 1/24th of my credit card balance?
Yeah, great question. So part of our mission is not issuing customers with a new loan. We tap into the existing credit that they have on the card. So the reduction in the available balance is exactly the same as it would be on a normal credit card purchase. The difference is, however, the customer is only having to repay a monthly installment amount each month. So it kind of creates a buy now, pay later facility on the credit card, but always within the bounds of what's available on the card.
Brilliant.
And then for the consumer, they still get their rewards points. It looks great on their credit record, and they're not having to jump through any hoops to use it.
Fantastic. And so, Alex, what made you come up with the idea of Float, and what gave you the passion behind it to pursue it?
Peter, maybe a bit of a backstory of my career and I guess the time leading up to Float. So, studied commerce, did my honors in financial planning, which is kind of wealth management. And I joined a large corporate in South Africa called Alex Forsyth. It's sort of the biggest pension fund administrator on the continent. They also do investments and insurance and wealth management and all those things. And I joined as a little junior in the wealth management team. Long story short, that time corporates were really big on innovation in the 2010s and new ideas and stuff. And I was one of those overly keen youngsters who was always putting in an idea at the company. Most of them were just terrible. One or two got through, and then I ended up building sort of a new business unit in the company. And all the ideas were around helping people to be better with money. So, and that new business unit was, we built a product to help collective savings schemes in South Africa. It's a very popular form of savings, especially from those who are excluded from the financial system. So I ran that business that product for about 18 months to 2 years. And then after that, I got promoted to the group head of innovation under the CEO of the company. And he kind of said to me, just do what you did there, but for the whole group. And my response was, I'm very keen for the role, and I think I can make a difference, but I'll never build inside a corporate again. It's just too difficult. There's too much red tape and bureaucracy, and for good reason. There's, it's a big, well-known brand. They can't afford to take the risks that a startup can. But what I am keen to do is to look out into the world of fintech and see who's doing interesting things and to enable them or partner with them. So that was what we did. And the focal point was sort of in two areas, helping people to be better with money management. And the second area was to do credit in a better way. So basically, out of quite a good bird's eye view of what was happening in the world of fintech, not just in South Africa, but we looked to all kinds of other markets. we signed actually a partnership deal with a UK fintech that was doing sort of payroll lending, as an example. And we had a lot of connections in Australia, and they told us all about this buy now, pay later craze that was starting to explode with a company called Afterpay. And basically that the business model didn't really fit with the corporates. And after I'd done a few things, I was moonlighting and trying to figure out a different spin on this buy now, pay later model that I thought would be a bit more South African friendly, if I could put it that way. And anyway, long story short, Peter, I borrowed a few lessons from Brazil, where they don't call it buy now, pay later, but they've been doing installments at the point of sale for decades. And I just thought Brazil, Latin America is a far better, far more applicable use case to South Africa than countries like Australia or Sweden. So I borrowed this card-linked installment concept from Brazil. We had to adapt it to the SA payment system. And when I felt out a solid idea, I resigned, left my job. I didn't have funding yet, but I knew that I could get consulting work and advisory work. And that was enough to sort of help me pay my bills and keep living. And then, had to get through COVID, which was a bit of a span in the works. But I ended up raising money, and we started building Float in 2021. So that's the story of my career up until starting my own business.
Great. The internet's maybe it's something in South Africa. The internet is definitely a little bit wobbly, but hopefully it's not impacting everybody else. I get this is the question I like to always ask people is, what has been your biggest challenge around achieving market penetration, and how have you overcome that?
Peter, a couple of challenges. I think we were laggards to the market. We were pretty late to the buy now, pay later game, and everyone was copying a company called Klarna and another company called Afterpay. Peter, just shout if you're struggling to hear me. I can always go back a few steps. But we had a lot of competitors. It was a very saturated market. So initially, before we refined our value proposition, everyone was saying, well, you're just another buy now, pay later. And why would we use you? We have 5 or 6 others. But ultimately, we really refined the way that our product worked and carved out a niche for ourselves and actually used that to our benefit. We let the buy now, pay laters educate the market around offering interest-free installments. And really what our product was able to do that allowed us to then gain penetration was process much bigger installment values. So around about 10 times the size of a normal purchase. Peter, you've dropped off on my side. I'm not sure if that's you or me. Peter,
Alex, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if that was me dropping off or you.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Right. It seems to be a bit of an issue at my end. So, and so I didn't hear a lot of that at all, but hopefully everybody else managed to hear that.
Yeah, I actually paused. I paused when I got into it, Peter, but the question was around our market penetration. But in a nutshell, the biggest obstacle we had was we were late to the game and there were tons of competitors. And everyone initially just saw us as another Me Too. But of course, our product is really different to traditional buy now, pay later, which is intended to displace the credit card and is super popular with Gen Z and all people who can't qualify for a credit card. And generally, they give you little loans, call it around $100, and you have 6 weeks to pay. The float difference is that we do our average order is close to $1,000, and our customers have on average 4 to 6 months to pay. So when merchants started to tag onto that, we realized we could actually ride on the coattails of BNPL. You know, they'd educated the market so well, created a need they weren't fulfilling. So we were all too happy to, instead of saying we're competing and a better offering, we would say, listen, keep your buy now, pay later. We're just a complete different alternative. And after a couple of months figuring that value prop out, then we started to gain real momentum. Now we've got 1,000+ stores in the market. We work with the likes of Apple. It's called iStore in South Africa, the Apple retail outfit, Samsung, Puma, and tons of other global brands. So we got there eventually. Yeah.
Nice, very nice. And what would you say are the obstacles? So you've gone from pre-revenue to revenue to scale up. And what would you say are the issues that are facing you today?
Peter, so I guess I'll mention first just the usual macro sort of issues that certain fintech industries face. So just to speak more plainly, the sentiment around buy now, pay later has been pretty negative the last couple of years, especially for external stakeholders, investors and partners and stuff. So we've really worked hard to explain to people, we do not sit in that buy now, pay later bucket. Where card-linked installments is a whole new category, doing things extremely differently and responsibly. Second to that, I mean, South Africa is a decent market. Certainly in Africa, it's a decent market. But to get your investors ventures type returns, you got to go to some big markets. So, currently being a South African business, that's something we're working hard to solve. In fact, we will be solving soon. I think we may get to that in a second. Peter, then the final thing is, just as a founder, someone who was a solo founder, it's really hard to make the transition of being in the detail of the product every day, selling every day alongside your team, to be more strategic and think big picture, and to use the rugby analogy to sort of get your head out of the ruck and see what's going on in the field. I'm really finding that challenging at the moment because we're trying to keep the team small and lean, and we don't really have the luxury for me to just step out of the day-to-day stuff. So that's where my investors are really helpful. They always hold the mirror up to me and challenge me. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same for most startup businesses, isn't it? The point of inflection where you need to be in the weeds to some extent, and because you're the core driver of growth and revenues and partnerships and technology, but at the same time, you need to be able to jump up there to think more strategically. Because you need to be planning not just for the next month or the 3 months or 6 months, but the next year or 2 years or 3 years. So it is a difficult space. So I'm really pleased your investors are helping you out on that, kind of like what they're there for. Any global expansion plans?
Yeah, I mean, Peter, to allude to one of the obstacles that we face, look, one of the beauties of this product that we've built is it runs on the Visa MasterCard rails. It's super exportable. Our ability to pop up and plant ourselves in a new market is way stronger than your traditional buy now, pay later or lender, because you're not having to, deal with local regulations. It falls within existing credit card regulations. 2, you're not having to plug into bureaus and build decisioning models and stuff. It's kind of a fancy way of processing credit card transaction. So we really have a lot of those tailwinds behind us. But yes, right now we are actually fundraising to take our product abroad and focused on some large credit card markets. The UK is right up at the top of that list, especially because of the logistical, call it friendliness from a market like South Africa. And we have a lot more of a network in the UK with tons of expats there. So taking our product abroad is priority number 1, other than just running our day to day. That's the first next step for us.
So just on that, if you could come into the UK today, and I know you have to sign up retailers and brands, how quickly could you could somebody utilize their credit card facility through Float in the UK?
How long would it take us to get set up? Is that the question?
How quickly could I, for example, I have a client as a wholesaler retailer. Product prices probably £600, and maybe I wanted to pay that off over 6 months or 12 months. How quickly could, and if I got you connected to them and then you signed them up, how quickly could I use my credit card to using Float to pay that client off, that product off over, say, 6 months?
Yeah, for the end consumer, I mean, it's pretty much as seamless as a credit card transaction. There's nothing to download. There is no sign up or credit check. They're choosing an installment period, and then they're off to the races. On the merchant side of things, to integrate our option, especially in the e-commerce world, is super easy. We've got all of your normal e-commerce plugins, WooCommerce. We're an approved Shopify app, Magento module. We also have a direct API integration. To integrate it and to process a payment takes max a couple of days for custom integrations. The only delays if merchants want to do custom UI, but our plugin modules take less than a day to get up and running. So on both sides of the checkout, it's pretty easy.
Oh, brilliant. So, Alex, if there's anything I can do to help you to come into the UK, I think you said you're looking for investment funds. If there's anybody out there that can help Alex in terms of raising some capital, have you got a pitch deck to give her, Alex?
Yeah, we've got a pitch deck. We have a data room. We are mid-raise, so we've got a good few investors in the data room doing due diligence on us. But we welcome any interested investors. Please reach out to me or to Peter, and we'll be happy to send our deck.
Brilliant. Alex, just anything else you'd like to pass across on your journey as an entrepreneur?
Peter, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in doing this is just to think big. When you get into it, you're almost just happy that you got a business up and running. And I just feel, I mean, it's such generic advice, but when you open up your world and really aim for something massive, you really, at the end of the day, will do so much more. And I guess that's kind of how we're thinking about it. Yes, we're at the southern tip of Africa, but I genuinely believe there's absolutely no reason why we can't enter and be successful in other markets around the globe. So that's certainly how we see the world. And we're just pretty excited for what's next.
Brilliant. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and all the best for yourself and Float.
Thanks, Peter. Great to chat to you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.